I've been looking forward to riding one of these for years. It's no secret, I'm a bit of a Ducati fanboy. I've owned 3, I've borrowed plenty, and every single time I ride a Ducati, I'm reminded of why they are so special. This bike in particular is especially epic, as you've probably seen from the title. This is the Ducati Multistrada V4S. Let me give you a few stats about this bike. 170 horsepower from the V4 engine, an engine that is derived from the V4 Panigale. It's not quite the same engine, but you know, they come from the same place. 170 horsepower with 125 Newton meters of torque. This thing is quick, it's very capable, but it's also quite heavy. 231 kilos, that's before you've put a full tank of fuel in or loaded up the rear panniers. Big thing, powerful thing, fast thing, the ability to go everywhere. Cool bike. Now, in terms of choices of Multistrada, the V4S is only one of many that you can choose from. And when I say many, I do mean many. More than just 2 or 3. In fact, there are 12 different Multistradas that you can pick from, all doing what Multistradas do best. A quick Italian lesson, in case you're unaware: Multistrada basically means multiple roads. It means that this thing is designed to go everywhere. On roads, on highways, on tours, over mountain passes, off-road, on grass, on mud, you name it, this thing, thanks to some very clever electronics, will be able to go to a lot of places, or most places, that a lot of other bikes, or most other bikes, won't be able to. Out of the 12 possible Multistradas that you can pick from, prices are quite variable. They start quite low at 13,295. That's for a V2 without any options at all, and they increase the prices incrementally all the way up to £31,995. That's for the Multistrada V4RS. This one, oh, that's before options, I should add. This one, V4S, is still quite an expensive thing. Prices for these start at just over £20,000, but again, that's before you've ticked any options at all. And you're going to want to tick a few options because the options available are incredible. Ducati, like lots of manufacturers, have tried to make life nice and easy by putting together multiple option levels, 1 to 3 in the case of Ducati. And what they've done with the V4S is they've given 3 optional lists. The first, the most basic, for £1,000, is called Radar, and that refers to this little black box on the front, which I'll explain more about in a little bit. The second stage, level 2, is called Travel and Radar, with a price tag of £2,500. That will give you the panniers, a centre stand, heated grips, heated seats, and of course the radar system front and back. And then there's level 3. That's what this one has. Level 3 comes with a price tag of £3,850. And what do you get for your £3,850, I hear you ask? Well, I'll tell you. We get the side panniers, the centre stand, the heated grips, the heated seat, that's for the rider and for the pillion, the radar system, a Krapovich exhaust system, which you can't see, but I'll get the panniers off in a bit and show you, and a carbon fibre front mudguard. Cool things, worth ticking. That means that this V4S, as we see it, with the level 3 package, is £24,345. Except it's not, because this one's also got some other options. It's got the aviator grey paintwork, that's an option of £300, and a few other extra bits like the hand guards, and there's some little prettier covers on things. So I estimate that this one, with the options it's got, is somewhere between £25,000 and £26,000. Now, probably worth mentioning, this as a bike and as a model has been around for a couple of years. So if you're watching this in the hope of a review, probably not going to be that, because chances are, if you're looking for a review, I'm not going to be able to tell you anything that you haven't seen already on another video or read in a good written review either. But there is a lot of stuff I really like about this bike, and there is a good reason that I've got this bike, hence this video here today. Why don't you come a little closer, have a good look around this bike. Let me talk you through some of the features that I just think are so incredible, some really good intricate little details, and then I'll tell you about a little adventure that I'm planning tomorrow, all around the country. So we've stuck it on the centre stand now, because that's going to be the easiest way for me to show you a lot of the features. Lots and lots and lots of features that I really like, so many that I've had to write them down, and I am going to have to refer to my notes once again so that I can remember each and every one of them. But first things first, comfort. This thing is such a comfortable bike in all positions. The seat itself is adjustable. You can lower it ever so slightly, and if you are slightly shorter in the leg, I'm 6'1", and I can put my foot flat to the floor on here, but if you're any shorter, you might struggle, and that is something to consider when you have got a bike that's the best part of 230 kilos. Wobbling it around at low speeds can be quite difficult, but fear not, because of course the compromise that you sometimes get with a lower seat is that the seat itself isn't actually that much lower, it's just got less padding, and that can mean less comfortable. But Ducati with the V4S, well, they've thought of that, and in the situations that you might be struggling to put your feet down, and crucially want your feet down, you can hit the suspension button on here and the bike will actually lower itself as you're pulling up to a junction. And then as you get back up to speed again, the bike will raise itself. And that's all controlled by sky hook suspension. That's something that Ducati have come up with. And if you look at the top of the suspension struts, you'll see that there's cables and wires that go in, and that's because there's various levels of adjustments that you can do. And the bike itself is even clever enough to know what sort of weight is on it at any given time. For example, if it is just me and I've got either no panniers or empty panniers, then the bike will adjust these suspension settings accordingly. If I load these things up, which I have done, and make them really, really heavy, and then get a friend on the back, again, you can tell the bike that you've got a bit of extra weight on, and it will make adjustments to the suspension to make the ride just as comfortable, just as compliant. No need to get out any tools or adjustments, it just does it all electronically. There are some non-electronic adjustments that help with comfort. You've also got a similar system with the screen, a simple pull up and push down. I think it looks a lot better when pushed down, and it provides a decent bit of aero, but if you're doing a lot of motorway miles, you're going to want to pull that up, and it just blocks that extra bit of wind flow there, so you don't get as much helmet buffeting or wind noise. Likewise for these little plastic panels here, they look like they do very little, but in actual fact they do an awful lot. They will direct the wind around your shoulders, so you've basically got no impact points of wind whilst riding along on a long distance. And then back into the world of technology, I mentioned the radar at the front and radar at the back. Now, at the front, it's for cruise control, just like you would find in a nice posh car. You set your cruise control, and you can then anchor it to the back of a car that you're following. You set your desired speed, a maximum speed, say 70 miles an hour on the motorway, and the bike will accelerate to 70 miles an hour. Until, of course, a car pulls in front of you and starts to slow down. Now, if you can't get past that car, the bike will slow yourself down to match the speed of the car ahead of you. Once that car gets out of the way or speeds up, you're automatically taken back up to speed. You've also got the ability to shift through the gears on the quick shifter, up and down with the cruise control on, and that will give no interference at all. And the only real ways that you will be able to turn the cruise control off is either by manually hitting the button there, rolling forward on the throttle, or of course using either the front or the back brakes. That will turn off the cruise control. Otherwise, it is a beautiful system, and it really does aid with the relaxation of riding at long distances. Reduced wind fatigue, reduced throttle fatigue. You just cruise along knowing that if something's going to happen ahead of you and the traffic's going to slow down, the bike will slow down for you, and it's so smooth, it's so magical. Now, you've heard me probably say a few times we've got rear radar on this bike as well, and you might be thinking, well, what the hell does that mean? And you can see it, it's this little black panel down here. Now, the rear radar cruise control, well, what that does is that keeps an eye out for traffic on either side that's catching you up. When you're hammering along on a motorway at 70 miles an hour, everything vibrates and the mirrors get a bit fuzzy. It's not easy to keep a constant eye on what's going on around you, but if the bike detects with that radar that something is coming up behind, you get a little orange flashy light on either the left side or the right side to make you aware that there is a vehicle coming up. So I think I've made it quite clear that the general impression for this Multistrada V4S is that it is quite incredible, and with all the tech and all the gadgets and all the features, makes it the perfect bike for a bit of a road trip. and that is exactly what I'll be doing. These panniers are currently absolutely full of my belongings. Clothing, spare shoes, non-riding gear, all that sort of stuff. I've also got a brand new helmet, thanks to the lovely people at Arai. And I thought, rather than just kind of talking in a stationary point and getting some nice beautiful tracking shots, which we'll go out and get in a second for you anyway, I thought I'd take this on a proper ride and do breakfast, brunch and dinner at 3 Italian restaurants in the UK, all in one day. Today is July the 4th. Happy Independence Day to the Americans. It's also election day here in the UK. Tomorrow is July the 5th, and that's when I'll be taking this on a bit of an adventure. So in a few hours, I'll be heading down to London, where tomorrow morning at 6 AM, I'll be having an Italian breakfast. And then in London, I'll be departing and driving across to Wales, where I'll be having an Italian brunch. And then once I've had my Italian brunch, I'll be making my way up to Edinburgh for an Italian dinner. Are you getting a theme? Italian bike, Italian food, all in one day. And I want to do this because I want to see if this Multistrada V4S is as comfortable, is as cruisable, and is as enjoyable as it's designed to be. It does mean, sadly, I'll be leaving Luke on camera and Henry over there behind, and I'll be going it alone. So most of what you're going to see in the remainder of this video is going to be captured by me with a series of GoPros, an Insta360 and an iPhone. Let's see how we get on. I'll see you in the morning for a coffee, much needed coffee.
Well, I'm going to level with you folks. This is not the start of the day that I was hoping for. It is 12 minutes past 6. Friday, the 5th of July. Big day because, well, I mentioned yesterday whilst filming that we here in the UK had a general election yesterday, and that has resulted in a complete change in Parliament. We have a new Prime Minister, we have a new government. It's all very exciting. I haven't had a big change like this since the 1990s. But anyway, that's the long and short of the political discussion that we're going to have today, because today's about an adventure. Just going to check that I'm recording, which I'll be honest, I can't really see that I am, but let's just hope I am. The other big news of the day, in comparison to our filming day yesterday, is the weather is absolute dog mess. I packed some waterproofs, or so I thought. Certainly got waterproof trousers, but no waterproof top. So whilst my jacket is a little bit waterproof, it's not quite waterproof enough, and that's going to be quite miserable unless it suddenly brightens up and warms up fairly quickly. So here's hoping, fingers crossed. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, wet and very cold day. I may have to be stopping at a Halfords or something to get myself an overcoat to put over this only very slightly waterproof jacket. But anyway, it's fun. Hey, it's an adventure. Currently on my way to the first meeting point of the day, the first Italian cafe of the day, which is Salvino in Camden Town, where I'm meeting a good friend of mine, Tim, who has also brought along a little Italian car, quite a special little Italian car, to go with the very special Italian bike. That's if I make it without giving up. That rubbish sort of rain. It's not quite rain, it's like half mist, half drizzle, mizzle, my mum used to call it. And just kind of makes everything wet. I'm at my first location. Salvino in Camden Town. Oh, morning. Lovely day for it.
Yeah, you didn't book the weather, did you?
No, no.
Adds to the story.
Oh yeah, something like that. Adds to the going home early.
Salvino is a charming little independent delicatessen owned and operated by Tony. Tony welcomed me with open arms and an early morning breakfast consisting of a double espresso and a pistachio cornet. Well, I've successfully had a coffee, and I've bumped into a very close friend who, if you've watched all of our videos on Driven before, you will have seen Tim before, because Tim and I did a Bentley adventure, sunset to sundown, 2021, longest day of the year, which was great, but Tim's decided not to join me on this particular adventure.
I don't want to ruin your overall fuel consumption by sitting on the back, and I don't think you want to be manoeuvring in this weather with a Tim on the back of your bike either.
Yeah. Fuel consumption is a good point actually, because this thing does drink fuel, so I'm probably going to be doing a few fuel stops today. Just praying that this weather improves, because at the moment it's a bit rubbish. But also, can we just enjoy Tim's car? Panda 100 horsepower, Italian car, Italian bike, Italian cafe. Perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Perfect.
Apart from the weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's wet. I've had to decamp the GoPro because I didn't want to get everything very wet. And yes, off I go with wet hands, slightly wet head, questionably wet body. For a trip to Cardiff, where I should be arriving about 10:25. Oh, let's get out of London. See you in Cardiff. First fuel stop of the day, which will hopefully get me to Cardiff or over towards Abergavenny without any issues. One thing I have noticed, and this bike does, is that this bike does drink a bit of fuel. And we seem to be blessed with fairly good traffic. It does tend to be a Friday thing in London. So that at least is lifting my spirits. The other things that are lifting my spirits are the heated grips and the heated seats, which are currently really doing a lovely job. We're currently on the A40 on our way to the M25, and then the M4 to take us all the way to Cardiff.
As I left London, I was praying for the rain to stop. But this is the British summer, and so it didn't. The rain continued towards the M25 and on the M25 and towards the M4 and on the M4, all the way to Wales. As I crossed the iconic Prince of Wales Bridge into Wales, something amazing happened. The rain, which had been relentless since leaving London, had finally stopped. But it had taken its toll, not only dampening me, but my spirits too. As a result, I decided to divert from my original plan of Cardiff and instead head to a more familiar location elsewhere in Wales.
Those trees you can see and those birds you can hear are Welsh. Welcome to Wales. And welcome to very sunny Wales, which is not representative of the ride that I've had so far. The weather has been awful. In fact, let me see if I can put you in my crash helmet too. Bit of a better mount. There we go. Okay,
at that. So yes, the weather has been awful. Torrential rain to the extent where I even thought I have to call this off. I've got waterproof trousers on. The showerproof jacket is exactly that, it's showerproof. Luckily, the past 20 minutes, like the last 20 minutes of the ride, get across the bridge from England into Wales, sunshine. So it's actually dried me out, and I'm going to rely on the weather and sunshine drying me out the rest of the way. I'm going to take these waterproof trousers off now because the forecast actually from here to Edinburgh isn't too bad. It's windy but no rain, so hopefully that'll dry me off. The only thing that is wet, which is making me a little bit miserable, is my feet. I've got these lovely RST boots, but they are the ones designed to keep your feet cool rather than dry, and as a result I've got wet feet. So yeah, I doubt they're going to dry out. But we soldier on. The bike has been incredible. One complaint is that I'm a bit saddle sore, and I wasn't expecting that from a Ducati, especially one that's designed for touring. But so I'm doing a lot of like bum shuffling, and this next stint is the big one. This is the 7-hour ride, so I'm going to try and get up to T-Bay. I've already emptied the tank of fuel, so I need to fill up the tank and then see how far that gets me. Noticing it's about 150 to 160 miles on a tank of fuel, which is not the best, but there we are. I will get back to it. Bike is looking good, going well, sounding well, everything else brilliant. The Arai Tour X5 is serving beautifully, and yeah, the journey goes on. Next stop, Edinburgh. Second tank of the day. It says ambitiously waiting for the pump to be authorised. I saw recently on Instagram that people in the US watching people in the UK, and actually a few people in Europe, they get really surprised to learn that the majority of our petrol stations, gas stations, fuel stations, we put the fuel in first and then go and pay for the fuel. It's quite an alien concept to everyone in the US. So just in case we've got anyone in the US watching, look at this for a novelty. I'm putting fuel in first and then I'm going to pay for it. I'm also going to spray fuel all over the bike, which is lovely. So yeah, tank number 2. Let's see what range that gives me. And crucially, £30 and a penny without looking. Wow. So let's just have a look and see what the expected range is. The expected range is 223 miles. It should get me 3/4 of the way. So I hope to stop at T-Bay services, which is up just before Carlisle, I think. Pretty services, and then the final jaunt will be into Scotland. So taking my waterproof trousers off now, optimistically perhaps, but weather forecast says no more rain, so let's hope it's correct. Let's go and pay for this and be back.
The weather forecast was unusually correct. The rain had finally stopped, and to my delight, the temperature was even warm enough to start drying out my feet. But it was on the next leg of my ride that the discomfort would shift from damp feet to a far more serious concern. My arse.
I have an arse update. I've had to stop at Sandbach. I never know if it's Sandbach or Sandbach services, but essentially North Wales back into England. Got about 200 miles to go, and I have been really struggling with the seat comfort, which has really surprised me because I've done a lot of riding on this over the past week, but obviously today is a big concentrated ride, and I must admit, with the 2 hours to get from home down to London yesterday for the start of the ride, I started to feel a little bit sore when I got there. So I've actually got cycling shorts on underneath my Kevlar in the hope that the gel would give a bit of cushioning, but even with that I've really been struggling. So I've stopped at the services, and I've noticed, interestingly, that the seat, unbeknownst to me for the past week, has been in its lowest setting. I had absolutely no idea, and I'm really hoping, having just put it into the highest setting, that that will be enough to maybe change the angle of the seat slightly, because I am really struggling with this. It's not a firm seat by any stretch of the imagination. It feels soft and supple, especially with the cycling gel shorts as well. But yet, yeah, I am pretty sore. So I'm really hoping that this is going to cure it. I'm far too far north to consider giving up now, so I'm going to carry on. But yeah, I'll update accordingly, hoping to get a good stint of journey done now. Either my next stop will be T-Bay for some fuel, depending on the range. I've got 40, maybe I'll just get fuel here, 40 miles of range, 229 miles of journey. I'm going to get some fuel here. Let that be a moral for anyone. If you have an opportunity to get fuel now instead of later, always get it now. The same goes for the whole day before thing. The I'll get fuel in the morning never goes well. Get it now. Right, £22.99 that was fuel stop, which has rewarded me with a 223 mile range, which is 5 miles short of what I need it to be. So what do we predict? Will I claim back a few miles with economic riding, or will I be stopping again for one last tank before I get to Edinburgh? I suspect I'll be stopping again.
With the seat adjusted and the hope for a more comfortable ride, I was now progressing north via the M6 towards the most scenic stretch of motorway in England.
It's the last fuel stop. That's the plan. T-Bay services. I think possibly the best services in the country, apart from one crucial fact, and that is the majority of people that use T-Bay services. I get the irony, and I'm one of those people, but if you've been to T-Bay services before, chances are you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you think, hang on, I've been to T-Bay services before, I'm a completely normal person, then you are the person I'm talking about. The less said on that, the better. But arse update, since a quick change to the seats, that has worked. The arse comfort is better. Don't really know why or what the science is behind that, but it's better. And weather is glorious. The sun is shining. Temperature is currently 18 degrees, which is perfect biking temperature. One last splash of premium fuel, and then I have got about 130 miles, I think. Is that right? 130? Hang on. Come on. 130 miles. We'll go and pay for this and then we'll head off. The last ride. 2 hours, 3 minutes, 130 miles.
on. And just to pick up on what I was talking about with regards to the kind of people that frequent eBay services, the word, and there is a word, dawdlers. They're not in a hurry to do anything. And that's fine. Except for when you are in a hurry and you need to do things. Right, let's get that plugged in. Last time.
My final motorway stint would see me across the border from England and into Scotland, with my last stretch of riding roads being the glorious border roads towards Edinburgh.
Gentlemen, welcome to Edinburgh. My God. So on the whole, I think I've been quite lucky weather-wise, and ironically the brightest and probably warmest section of the day is now in Edinburgh. I'm going to summarise my thoughts tomorrow morning on my way back home, because I'm exhausted and I just want to have a beer, eat some pasta and meet my friend. So I'm going to do that, and I'll give you some summarising thoughts tomorrow, mainly about my bum.
And I'm back. We first started filming this on Thursday. That was the first section of our footage. I then made my way down to London, stayed overnight, and got to work on Friday. Friday, of course, the big day, the big ride. London to Wales to Edinburgh. And it was eventful, as you probably have seen. Quite miserable in places, but you know, we made it. And then, of course, I had to come home again and did that yesterday, on Saturday. And now, in total, I've hit over 1,300 miles in total that I've had with this bike. And in that time, I've learnt a fair bit, and I've had to make some notes. Is a 170 horsepower 1100cc V4 engine needed on an adventure bike? Probably not. Am I pleased that there is a 170 horsepower 1100cc V4 on this particular bike? Absolutely yes, I am. This bike is very special for so many reasons, and to try and run through everything well, the entire ride home yesterday I was essentially trying to write this script in my head, and it's almost so good that it's become a little bit difficult to come up with them. But here are the points that I've got. The engine, of course, let's focus on that firstly. It is sensational. The entire rev range, from low down right up to the red line, this thing zings and sings. It is just so good. The engine braking on it as well is absolutely fantastic. And this, as I said in our opening to the video, the engine itself is derived from the same V4s that go into the Panigales. There is, of course, some slightly different internals, a slightly different tune, but in essence, the V4, the structure of it is exactly the same. And that shows. It means that this bike is so unbelievably capable and fun on the fast and flowing roads. As well as the going power, there's the stopping power. The brakes are just sensational. I feel like I've spent a weekend doing constant push-ups from just hammering on the brakes and then supporting my weight back down again. Just amazing. The chassis and the geometry, to be honest with you, I don't quite know how Ducati have done what they've done with this bike. Even with the panniers loaded, which I've left at home for this evening's shoot, it just seems to handle in ways that a bike this big and this heavy definitely shouldn't, at least in my own head. But clearly, it does everything just so well. It's so compliant, it's so predictable. Of course, with the electronic aids, you've got so much going on to help with when the power's getting put down through all the different rider modes. It's just superb. Of course, yeah, the dynamic wheelie control, the traction control, the ABS, all of it just absolutely fantastic. Couldn't find any fault at all. And I must talk about the Skyhook suspension because, again, it seems to do things that shouldn't really feel possible on a bike of this size. The way that it absorbs bumps, the way that you can throw this thing into tight and twisty corners, you can throw it into corners where the grip level will change, and you can just feel the bike, the electronic traction control systems doing wonderful things, the suspension compliance doing wonderful things. It's just such a clever thing. All in all, the bike undoubtedly outweighs my capabilities as a rider, and I feel like very easily a very good rider could get on one of these, take it on a track day and embarrass some very expensive fast superbikes. I really firmly believe that, probably even with the panniers on as well. In terms of some of the tech that I spoke about at the beginning, a couple of things I didn't think I'd be that fussed about, but as it turns out, been incredible. The blind spot indicators and the radar cruise control, both of which I thought, am I going to use those much? But in all honesty, especially riding along the motorways, the blind spot indicators are incredible, and the radar cruise makes life an absolute breeze, especially in slower traffic conditions. You can just set that to the maximum speed you want to go to. The bike will do what it needs to do. As I say, didn't think I'd be that fussed with those, but genuinely, they've been fantastic. Overall, it's an entirely positive review with just a few little negative points that I have also made a note of. I have been trying out Ducati's mobile app that's designed to be paired with the bike, and then you pair that with a dedicated navigation app. It's pants, and there's absolutely no point using it. I've just been using Waze mounted on the handlebars with a mounting clip, and that's solved all those problems. So yeah, mobile app and mobile storage, not really anything worth worrying about. The other one, I guess the two link together, it's aero and seat. Now, there is actually nothing wrong with the aero. However, at the height that I am, at 6'1", at motorway speeds, this screen, even in the high up position, is just a tiny bit too low, meaning I get a little bit of turbulence in the crash helmet. In terms of legs, in terms of shoulders, in terms of arms, absolutely no complaints there at all, but the head was getting a little bit of a battering. And I even tried alternating the visor on the Arai Tour X5, sorry, not the visor, the peak. Didn't really get much difference there. At 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, no problem at all. At 70 plus-ish, it does become an issue. And again, on the long rides, that's where things can get a little tedious. My other complaint, which is the one that really has surprised me, is the seat. The seat is firm, and I think possibly due to a combination of my weight, around 96 kilos, and also the pedal positionings, there isn't really much option for me with my leg length to take any weight off my bum via the pegs. For me, my entire body weight is sat on that seat, and it is just a little bit firm, which has resulted in quite a severe saddle soreness. But in fairness to the bike, if I was doing jaunts on this at an hour time, that probably isn't likely to be an issue. If you're doing an entire day of riding 10, 11, 12 hours, then it is going to be an issue. So if you're planning on those sort of long rides, have a chat with your dealer about possible different saddle options, because if, like me, you're quite tall and a little bit heavy, then you may have similar discomfort issues. But ultimately, that is it. That is the only gripes. That's changeable. The aero in here is probably changeable. You can get different aero screens, or even just a tiny little clip, 2 or 3 inches of a clip on the top there, just to direct more air over the top, would probably alleviate all concerns. So the final question: should you buy a Ducati Multistrada V4S and ride from London to Cardiff to Edinburgh all in one day? No, probably not. Certainly not the ride. Definitely buy the bike. But in terms of the ride, don't do it all in one day. Take the scenic routes, avoid the motorways, and this thing will make you so unbelievably happy, you'll never want to drive a car ever again. Perhaps a bold statement, but I'm standing by it. This thing is so special, so incredible. You'll be able to read more thoughts in further depth on the website, driven.site/words, where you can see my full written review of this bike, along with a load of other beautiful pictures, both from my trip, but also from our press shoot here as well. For now, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification to see what comes next. It's probably going to be a car, and for the next day or two, I'm probably going to be lying down because I'm knackered. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.